Guys, girls, welcome. I've got a great friend from Australia called Alan here today. This guy is the social media guru to go to. He taught me the one important thing, to know your why. Now, Alan, what I want to do is get you to intro yourself a little bit, tell us all about you, and tell us your why, your business, etc., etc.
So first of all, thanks for having me on, Chris. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And just from our last conversation, like before I introduce myself and everything else, it's really good to hear like the conversation. I think it was about 12 months ago we had a conversation.
Yeah, over 2 years ago.
Yeah, I used to live out west of Sydney, and you came over for a burger and a beer.
Yeah.
And we had a quick chat. Oh, no, it wasn't a quick chat, was it? It was pretty in depth, actually.
But it was an hour and a half, mate.
Yeah, but mate, either way, I appreciate you having me on. It's really good to hear that what we talked about still is it's still something that you're carrying today. So to introduce myself, my name is Alan Howle. So I wouldn't necessarily call myself a social media guru. I do a lot of stuff on social media. I would say my jam is mainly in personal branding, specifically with video presence. So I run a business called The Triple Effect, which basically we create 6 months worth of video content in 2 days for YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. So we have a really tight strategy and work with people who are really looking to extend their brand and really extend their reach through video. So that's what I do. But I'm just a massive advocate for people and bringing out the best in people and bringing out the best in myself so I can help people around me as well. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to chatting today. I'm excited.
So, Alan, tell us, why did you, I know you used to have this job, was it graphic design or something like that?
Yeah, so I started out in graphic design. When I left school, I started out in graphic design and it slowly evolved into a number of different things. But yeah, I started in graphic design.
So then obviously I met you when you were literally bridging between what you do now and you're still working full time as a graphic designer. So
just to clarify that, when we first met, I was working full time in insurance for one of the biggest banks in Australia, or the biggest bank in Australia, and so I was working full time. I was doing some bits and pieces in insurance. I wasn't it was paying the bills, but it was my passion. When we first started chatting and when we first met through a mutual friend, I think at the time, I was sort of just building up my business on the side. I'd always done graphic design in the background, but I think there was a pinnacle point. And it was the 6th of June, 2017, because that's when my little boy was born. I'd been doing graphic design. I have a girl who's 5 years old now. She was born obviously before that, but I think that's what some like a combination of kids turning 30, just looking at life and going, where the fuck am I going in life? And then just a combination of everything. It's sort of just put it all together and gone, okay, better pull my thumb out and and get to work and actually create something that I'm proud of. And so when we did first meet, I was working a full-time job, and I slowly but surely evolved it enough into a Facebook agency where I was running Facebook ads for local businesses, and obviously doing video and a whole stack of other things. And then once I finally did leave my job at the beginning of last year, 2019, in January, at the beginning, 2019, I then started touring around Australia doing events, boot camps, workshops, had an online program that was quite successful. And then at some point during that, I decided to narrow down and just focus on there's like a small percentage of people who really do want to stand out, and I have the credibility, I've got the tools, I've got the structure and strategy to help those sort of people who are really looking to advance what they do.
Cool. So basically now you're obviously doing that and streamline it right down. Did you know your why when you first started? Really, honestly.
See, I think my why has always been just to be happy and to feel like I'm contributing to the world. So Tony Robbins talks about the 5 or 6 human needs. Please don't make me quote them, because I don't know if there's 5 or 6, but I know that contribution is one of the key ones. There's certainty, uncertainty, and a couple of other things. But contribution is so important to not only, and like I'm going to talk, no, it's not only just, I was about to say for males, but it's also like, it's both females as well. But I think, especially for me, being a husband, a father, having that element of contribution to the world, and knowing what that is, which ties into my why. I think it's really important to establish that, and sometimes you can live an entire life trying to work it all out. And look, I think it can be as simple as being happy, but I think it can also be as complex as trying to, serve and deliver a message. But I think there's different levels of your why and why you do anything for any reason at all, So yeah. Does that answer your question?
It doesn't, but yes, I get it. I get where you're coming from. Like I'm privileged. We've sat down over a beer and a burger, and I had quite in-depth convo that day. So like I say, or we both said earlier, we know each other a bit well, rather than the audience knowing you that well.
Yeah, but I think, like, to try and add some more context to it, I think it starts at something like really simple, like being happy, and then it dives into what gifts do you have, what is your DNA, how does your DNA then give you the ability to be able to serve, give you the ability to be able to go and create impact, contribute to others, be the best version of yourself, and everything else. So I think I guess to go a little bit deeper on from what I previously said, is starts at something like just being happy and just being fulfilled or being aligned, and then goes deeper into business. Like, so for my business why, and what I do with my clients, I want to help my clients bring out the best in themselves. And I have a process and a strategy that helps them to alleviate, to leverage on the energy that they have rather than the strategy, because there's so much strategy in the world. But strategy isn't going to strategy is not going to help you or allow you to be able to create anything of real meaning or purpose. What's going to have you do that is your energy and who you stand for, what you stand for. And that's my why through my business. Obviously my why through my family and my kids and everything else it's a little bit different. It's got more to do with, making sure that they grow up to be the best humans that they can possibly be, that they've got everything that they need, but they're not spoiled little shits either. So yeah.
Well, we all can't, some of us are spoiled over life. But so like, that's all great. But one of the reasons I brought you on is I call you the social guru, the social media guru. Yes, you've done very successful on that, teaching people how to benefit and bring out the best in their business by using social media as a tool. So obviously you've had, I think every person, and if you haven't been trolled at some point on your social media, you are one very, very, very lucky person. Well, I can tell you I got trolled 4 times in my first year back in Oz, and that was bad enough. We were speaking earlier about a little incident that you had on TikTok. So
Yeah.
would you like to explain the situation and how best to deal in this sort of situation
Yeah.
for everyone to really get the benefit and the best out of it?
Yeah. So, all right. So the funny thing is, obviously, to give some context to our conversation, we're talking about. Chris had seen a TikTok post that I did. I shared it on Facebook, and then I've got mates from school who decide to go to town on me, and do quite often as well. The thing is that you know what? Like this is where your character really gets tested when someone does call you out or when someone does challenge you, based on what society believes or what that person just believes in general, right? So, and this is the thing is I've had enough trolls and keyboard warriors on my social media posts to be able to really like look at and then see, do I need to like back down? Like there's things I have had to back down on. And there's things that I've had to, there's things that I've then gone, fuck you. I'm just going to play this out exactly how I'd like to. So is it all right if I give you a couple of situations is that okay? Can I go into, all right, cool.
Yeah. Go into it.
All right. So I'm going to talk about that one, but I'm also going to talk about a couple of others that are probably like bigger. So I want to first give an example of a time that I've actually had to back down, right? So one of my first TikToks I did was I was dancing with this dude. So I'm in a co-working space right now. I was dancing with this dude. And as we were creating it, I was just like, fuck, this feels gay, right? This is what was going through my head, right? And then, and I have lots of gay friends, lesbians, all those other things, right? Nothing against what your sexual preference is. It's just my fun way of doing it, right? Now, I could openly say that to someone I know who is gay or who is a lesbian or, you know, whatever, straight, whatever, right? Because they know that it's coming from a playful nature. But when you put something into the public eye, it's different because you're putting it into the public eye and people don't potentially understand the context on what you're talking about. So if you're coming from like a really genuine place, and mean no offense to anyone, but it is creating offense, that's one of the posts I actually had to change. So when I wrote the caption, I said, this is one of the gayest things I've ever done. I actually had to change the caption because I was like, okay, I had enough people like comment on it. Like people were like finding it funny and everything else, but there was a couple of people who found it offensive. And at first I was like, no, fuck these guys, whatever. But then I was like, hold on one sec. And this is the thing is that like, just because something's right in your brain doesn't mean it's always right. You need to establish whether, the perception and everything else is something that you need to diverge on. So anyway, the long and short of this particular one, I actually changed the caption to make sure that it had nothing to do with being gay or not. It was just two guys dancing, two guys having fun. And that was the whole spirit of it. It wasn't about being gay or not being gay or anything like that. It was just about two guys dancing. So that's one thing that I had to back down on. So openly admit and being humble enough to accept that I was wrong. So that's one time. The one time, all right, I want to now share with you a time that I watched my audience take over with a troll, right? So I had a video that I launched, and it was actually the beginning of when the coronavirus, I think this was probably in March I released this video. So I went to like an empty car park. I actually wrote like this really cool poem. And it was about the coronavirus. It was like weeks ago we heard about the coronavirus, thousands of kilometers away. And then I was like, the coronas are on me, as I said to my compadres. And I did this whole rhyme, right? And this video went viral because we just started going into lockdowns. I think I've got 50,000 views on it just on Facebook alone, and over 200 shares and a whole stack of other things, right? So it went really, really well. And when a video like that goes really, really well, you get random people going, who the fuck are you? And all this other stuff. And so I had one guy who, like, so I got heaps of comments on this, like, wow, inspiring, all this other stuff, people tagging each other, blah, 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 blah. And then I think I had this guy said something like, something that was just really out of character, like just out of context. It was something like, I'll have to go back and tell you one time, but I think it was something along the lines of, he's trying to just say, like, this is shit, like, you don't know what you're talking about, or something like that. Whatever, right? And I was like, okay, all right, mate, just have you cry, whatever. But I think so when he did, at the time I was like, whatever. And then I was like, oh, I'm just going to play on this. I think, so he left himself open because he was talking about something. And when someone has an agenda on my posts, I'll decide whether, like, I want to, like, sort of play on it or just leave it, right? So the gay thing's probably something, don't play on shit like that that's going to blow up, right? Yeah. But when someone's having an attack at my personality or something about me, I'm happy. You can throw darts at me because I'll fucking throw those motherfuckers back, right? So anyway, I started responding to him. As he started responding back, I watched him get more vicious and vicious and vicious. And then after that, he then went onto my page and left a post to say, he said something really vulgar, or really, like, basically like, this person, Alan Howle, is the worst person in the world, or whatever he said, right? I can't remember. I can go back and get it because it's still there. But anyway, he wrote whatever he wrote, and then I didn't have to say anything. What my audience then did is then said, mate, I think I had about 5 or 6 people who seen that post, who then went and responded on my behalf without me asking, went and responded to that post and said, mate, I think you just need to calm the fuck down. You know, like, he just went to town, and he's just, like, trying to make me out to be this really bad person, all this other stuff. But it was really cool to see my audience go and defend me for that sort of thing. So that was just, and I think the way, like, if anyone who's listening to the podcast is wanting to get something out of this, what I'll say and suggest is that sometimes, like, I've built up that reputation of being a really nice person, being genuine, openly accepting when I'm wrong, but fucking fighting back when I'm right. Or not, it's not even about being right. It's sometimes just about being, I've got nothing to hide. Like, I'm not going to let someone, you know, go to town and imprint their beliefs because they're different to mine. You know, everyone's entitled to their beliefs. Everyone's entitled to what they want to do and think. But I'm not going to have it on my posts. Don't come in my backyard and shit.
When I was doing my teaching company over here, and I had a guy, literally, this was like a month after first starting. This is like 4 years ago, a bit longer. And no joke, he compared a 4-year or 3-year degree, sports degree, to a personal training course. And he tore strips into me. And what did my old coach do? Literally jumped on Facebook on my behalf and literally made this guy turn into the smallest worm on the planet. He said, how can you go and actually compare a 3-year degree to a 6-month course? And this guy was so determined to just tear strips into something that he knew nothing and very little about. Didn't say, what's your course entail or anything. Just said, that's it. You know, it's not a sports degree. You know, how can you say you're qualified X, Y, and Z? Actually, we are. So,
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
It's, another question I've got for you is you're in and around social media a lot. So you're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, are you? on Twitter as well?
I do have a Twitter account. I'm not very active, but I'm pretty active on pretty much all of the other. So YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok.
I've seen some crazy TikTok videos. Yes, mate. You're floating in the middle of the air. It just looks a bit weird, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, try and do some video effects and bits and pieces on TikTok anyway.
Yeah. So bit of advice to people who are listening to this podcast. What would be your top, say, 5 tips for running your social media? Not to the extent you do as it's a full-time business, but for the people who are running it as like a sideline business.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your top tips, your 5 tips?
Okay. Can I ask who, like, just to give context, because I can give some really, really good tips, who would be the typical person who listens to a podcast like this?
Well, this is going to go out to people who compete, PTs.
Okay. Personal trainers, yeah. Gym owners.
Gym owners.
Yeah, perfect.
That sort of line of business. Yep. And then you might get the odd, just fitness mum and stuff like that who might have,
perfect.
A sideline business, because in this day and age now, I think most of us have had to come up with some other streams of revenue coming in. And, some of these mums are bringing in like $300-400 a week, £300-400 a week extra by doing little bits on social media. So I thought, well, they've got their why, but what tips would you give?
So, perfect. So, all right. The thing is that what effectively social media, before I answer the question, I think it's important to give context to what is social media actually? And at its simplest form, it's just another way of communication to build relationships with people. There's real people on the end of every single platform. There's real people on the end of behind a profile picture, whether it's a cartoon or a picture of some flowers or a dog, there's a person behind that who created it, right? And so what I'd say and suggest is for anyone who's looking to build a business, create impact or generate business, for example, through social media, there's a couple of main things. And the first one is add massive value. And when I say add massive value, you want to be doing things that are valuable to your audience. So for example, Chris, obviously you've seen the value in potentially, interviewing someone, getting some insights, thoughts, details, things like that for an audience. Obviously this is going through like a voice thing. But at the end of the day, this is getting other people's opinions. This is talking about topics that your audience is interested in. It's value. The second thing is, I think, vulnerability. Now, vulnerability is really, really important because in a world where trust is the most valuable thing that you can get, once you've built trust with someone enough that they're willing to give you their credit card or willing to work with you or whatever the case is, that's ideally where you're looking to go, right? Is building relationships to a point where people know, like, and trust you. And trust is by far the hardest one to generate and create. So I think the first thing is vulnerability. It's getting vulnerable and sharing things that whereby either people are interested to hear your journey. Why did you get into PT? Why are you doing what you're doing? Coming back to the whys and everything else of why you're doing anything. And really, pardon me, really just going back in and being vulnerable enough to share your journey, share your story, and put yourself out there as someone who people can really relate to. It's not about sharing, the intricate details about when you go to the toilet and things like that. It's about sharing, sharing powerful things, powerful lessons that you've learned in business, in life, and everything else.
Do you think some people frown upon it, and it's not it's a bit like guys going to the doctors, it's like, oh, I can't show that side of me, can't do that. Do you feel that?
So to answer your question, I think you should never be vulnerable on something that you're not yet comfortable with. So for example, if I was going through, which I'm not, but if I was going through relationship issues with my wife right now, and we were potentially about to go through a divorce or something like that, there's no fucking way I'd be talking about what the 3 keys to having an amazing relationship, right? And talking about shit that you're going through, because that's going to go into a point where you're potentially going to make your relationship worse. You're lying and not being authentic, which is my next point, being authentic. But before I get there, so you always want to talk about stuff that you're very comfortable with. So if you've given up smoking, if you've given up alcohol, or, you've turned around, used to be, heavy on drugs or something like that. And you can talk about your transition from that life to the life that you now have, helping people to live their healthier self, be their healthier self, and all those other things. That's definitely something that people want to hear, something that people can relate to, especially in the health and fitness industry. And I think that's really important. So does that answer your question around vulnerability?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm trying to, like, we've spoken about all of this before, previously, and previously through mutual friends who we met, I've spoken with them and stuff like that. So I know where this avenue is going to, shall we say.
Yep.
What I'm trying to get to is the viewers. Most of the viewers, some viewers out there probably struggling to do what they're doing and think, oh, actually, yeah, I might be able to listen to this and,
so I think vulnerability, talking about things that you've overcome in your own personal journey, that can be relatable to what some of the issues and problems that people are going through right now, I think is a really, really important part, and it's going to build trust. The next thing that's also going to build trust is the point that I was about to make, which is authenticity. There's no point in trying to be someone else, because there's no one else better that you can be except for yourself. The more that you can be yourself and really feel into who it is you are. I posted out a quote the other day that I was just thinking about myself, and the quote said, fuck fake it till you make it. Be you until you're really you. And it's, yeah. And yeah. And when I came up with that download, I was like, fuck, like, why are we trying to be other people? Like, why try and be someone else? Like,
because I'm always looking for that gratitude, in our heads in this common world. He was saying, I read somewhere the other day that we've turned into all a bunch of soft pussies, and basically we need to all harden up and be real again. And you sit there and you think about it, and you think, actually, yeah, I think some people get upset at the littlest things where other people won't, but then those people who do won't get upset at what people are, and so on and so on. And I think, we're all striving to be this perfect thing that really we're never ever satisfied, because nowadays it's a click of a button on 90% of things. You look at, say, for instance, a dating app, right? It's like pick and mix in a store. You go, or lolly shop. It's like, oh my God, I'm in Woolies, lolly aisle. Oh, gee, yeah, there's pineapples, there's this, there's that, and everything else. And you go from one thing to another, and you're never really satisfied and happy. And that's why I think people are like that and are trying to always look for that gratitude and try to strive for someone else's life, because they're never really satisfied with their own.
Yeah, and look, I think that's really sad if that's the case, because I think to begin with, to establish who you really are, there may be an element where you do need to model someone. So let me give you an example. Obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the biggest role models in the training and you're like the health and fitness industry, right? A lot of people aspire to be like him. The sort of results and things like that he had. Now, there's only going to be one Arnold Schwarzenegger. And you can't be a better Arnold Schwarzenegger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, it's just like Chris cannot be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Chris can only be better Chris, right? Now, does that mean that, like, if you look at it in the terms of, will I ever be as good as Arnold Schwarzenegger? No, you won't be, because Chris can be better, or you don't have to do everything that Arnold did, right? You can draw inspiration, you can draw insights from his character, which then allow you to help you be the better your character, the better you. And through that process, whilst it sounds like a big hard climb, and whilst it sounds like a big task to actually really appreciate and be grateful for who you are and what you do, the thing is that if you always chase to be someone else, you're never ever going to be happy with who you are. And if you go through life trying to be someone else, through the entire process, you're always going to finish unsatisfied and unhappy, because you never just took the time to appreciate the gifts and what you have. And the thing is that Arnold Schwarzenegger would have never have been Arnold Schwarzenegger unless he focused on Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll just repeat that. He would never have been his truest self unless he focused on his truest self, his DNA and everything else. He wasn't focusing, yes, he probably drew inspiration off, different people and everything else, but he wouldn't have been the best that he can be by focusing on what everyone else is doing. He's training in the gym. He's focusing on himself. He's focusing on, different muscle groups and his health and this and that. Yeah.
With that though, Alan, some people might say that is borderline selfish, because they're just...
It is selfish, but how are you meant to give or do anything if you never stop to fill up your own cup?
Precisely. This is what I was about to say. Is I had my previous podcast. She's an ex-client of mine, student, named Sophie. Now, she put it bluntly the other day to us, is she was one for putting her family first. Her 2 kids, her husband's in the army. That's it. Doesn't matter what I'll do. I'll find any job. Doesn't matter if it's cleaning toilets, to working behind a bar, to working in the bakery, whatever it was. She wanted to do what she wanted to do. And she said, sometimes people forget it's okay to be selfish. And this is what I'm trying to say is about gratitude is wait a second, people want to be someone else, to strive to be someone else, because they can't be selfish enough to be happy with themselves.
Yeah.
Or push themselves to be that happy.
Yep. And I think sometimes the word selfish can carry the wrong indentation behind it, as in it's come across in a really negative way. But what I think to reframe it, it's actually helping yourself so that you can be a better person. So the person who you're talking about, if she's constantly looking after her husband and her kids and everything else, it's really important that if she is able to be the best mum, be the best wife to in that situation, it's really important that she needs to take the time to look after her. Really take the time to either go and train or just look after her mindset and look after what she believes in, so that she can give the best. Because if you never take the time to give to yourself, you're always giving from a place of emptiness. But if you take the time to fill up your own cup, and what you do have, you fill up your own cup first, then you can give part of what you have to everyone else around. You can fill up everyone else's cup.
Well, giving on an empty cup, it only leads to one thing, and that's resentfulness. You resent giving to everyone else and helping everyone else. So
Exactly.
you are not actually helping anyone. You're not even helping yourself. So we've got tip number 3 there, and we've gone on that. So what else would you say?
I think the last one is, the last 2 is, don't be afraid to ask for money, or I should say, don't be afraid to ask for money, or don't be afraid to be direct. Because the thing is, after it, like, I took a while in business to realize this, but it's, if you genuinely have a product or a service or a system or something that's going to better someone's life, why the fuck are you going to dance around, the investment and everything else? I have no issue showing or telling someone who is A, qualified, B, has the right mindset, and C, really wants to get the results that I can help them with, to show them that I can help them. I believe in my product, my service so much. And for that reason, I have no hesitation to tell someone, here's the investment, here's what it takes. Because if you're looking to get the results that you've just indicated to me, this is the system that we're going to use to get there. And I will be with you every step of the way. And I think there's some people who have been burnt through business or through different relationships and things like that, to think that, you know what, I'm sometimes not sure if I can help everyone or this person. And it's not your job to help everyone. It's your job to help the people who want your help. And if you can genuinely help them, and you genuinely believe in your product and your service, and it can genuinely get results, don't be afraid to ask for money. Don't be afraid to call someone out. Don't be afraid to say, let me help you, or don't be afraid to give that offer. Don't dance around the money side of it. Just be direct.
Be direct, yeah. I can remember you saying to me, you asked me when we first met at the pub, you asked me, what is your service? And I was like a bumbling wreck with you. I was like,
oh, that's right. Yes.
I was like this. And you're like, mate, that's right. Don't worry. Okay, I'll find someone else. And you have to be direct. You have to know your product and your service. You have to believe in that product or service to be able to manage to go, right, okay, this is what you're going to get from me. X, Y, Z. But yes, it is going to cost
whatever
zeros behind it. But you're going to get these results from this because this strategy is X, Y, Z, okay, and I'm there to follow you. And, those sorts of things do drum into people. And I'm sure you've had hundreds of clients now turn around and say, actually, Al, since you've told us to do that and we've implicated that, life has become a hell of a lot easier for us to go, right, well, whatever the service is, I don't know, for instance, it's going to cost me $500-600 or £500-600. That is what you're going to get for your £500 or £600.
Yep.
Dun, and be blunt about it. So I think that a lot of people are afraid of that massively. I think that's from PT, I can tell you now, every personal trainer at some stage in their career has suffered from this point.
I just want to add one little thing into there. So obviously being really confident about your product, your service and everything else is really important. But the thing is, confidence can be a lot easier for some people who talk shit as well. But I think what's important is the points before it, being authentic, being genuine and serving. I hate to use the word selling, because when I work with my clients, I serve them, and the money that is exchanged is a fair exchange of service, right? I'm serving you, your business, your mission, your purpose through video and the digital channels that we work through. That's a fair exchange of money, because of what we do. And so I never have to technically sell anyone for anything because I'm genuine, I'm listening, I'm here to serve. And the service that I offer is just a fair exchange. And so when you really do genuinely believe in your product and service enough to understand that it's just an exchange of money because you're serving that person and their mission and what they're looking to do and achieve, it becomes fun. And that was my last point. My fifth point is have fun. There's too many people in the world who are fucking stuck up themselves, trying to do, I don't know, like at the end of the day, life is way too fucking serious, especially for some people, right? Hence the reason I got into my TikToks and everything else is because I was like, well, first of all, like one of the things I love to do is I love to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So while everyone else is crying about the coronavirus, I'm fucking having fun. I'm going out, I'm going dancing. I'm just going to make a fucking fool of myself, partially for attention and partially for, to increase my business and everything else. But I just have fun. Like, if you're going to do this life, if you're going to go through the roller coaster of business, if you're going to go through the roller coaster of achieving anything and you're going to put up with the shit that you're about to put up with, at least have some fun along the way, because by having fun, it's more sustainable. You're going to enjoy it more and life is happier. What was our why from the very beginning? To be happy. Yeah. Why wouldn't you be having fun if you really wanted to be happy?
That's the thing, and like I think most people like. Okay, I think we both can speak from this point of view on business. Is you either are lucky and fortunate enough to walk into a business and it's plain sailing, and this is coming off left, right, and center, and the dollars are coming in, and everything seems easy, but if everything in life was easy, it'd be boring. True?
100%.
So, some of it, like you're saying, is have the fun. Some of the fun is the challenge of when it is hard. Keep fighting, keep digging. The one thing, biggest thing I've learned over the last probably 2 years, probably 2.5 years, is at times I've had to dig real deep, like ridiculously deep. I only lost my mum 2 weeks before Corona. And you just think, gee, like, I'll be honest now, I was on the phone to one of my really good mates here, probably my best mate here. And like, I was questioning why, what's the point of any of this at the moment? There's a guy, you probably won't know of him, in the bodybuilding world. Unfortunately took his own life. I'm not going to say names, but he was a professional bodybuilder. And basically, he had his own inner demons. And, his close friends know the real reasons. I'm not going to speculate what they were. But I can say, honestly, I've sat down and I was like, my mum got out at the best time. Things in Oz are a lot different to here because of the coronavirus. You guys have got your gyms back. We ain't going to get them back for at least a month at least now.
Sure.
And lockdown and, protection bubbles of, people are allowed to see one family member, like you can go to another family member's house now, but only one house. And you just think, but, there was 50,000 people in the middle of London, demonstrating over, something which happened in the United States. I'm sure you guys had it in Australia, didn't you? You have over the weekend. You just think, why? It's almost gone from a normal world to like 100 miles an hour of madness.
Yeah.
So to me, this is another reason why I've started this back up and started doing this, is because I think bringing back some normality to people is just helping. And
can I just really briefly talk on everything that's happening, because there's an element of like what you can control. You obviously do. What you can't, you obviously can't. But I think it's important to acknowledge what's coming up. So coronavirus, I think coronavirus taught us a lot of really good things. The thing that I really got out of the coronavirus was spending more time with my family, being in lockdown and everything else. So I was still able to work and function because of what I do. But there was a lot of people who weren't able to do that and everything else. So, and it also, because the schools got closed, I spent more time with my wife, making sure she was supported and everything else, and actually brought us together to spend more time, and how important that is, and something that we've carried out through that. With all the Black Lives Matter and things like that, I think it's really, I think, you know what, here in Australia, and I'm not going to speak for the rest of the world, but here in Australia, you know, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of Indigenous people who have been affected by racism in the past and everything else. And I think as a society, we've come a long way to fix that and better it and all those other things. But there's still some areas, and I'm sure it's the same for the UK as well, there's still some areas that still just need attention. And I think what's happening in America is really, really good from an attention point of view. Like, people are paying attention to the fact that this still exists. This unspoken about racism still exists. However, there are people who are also taking advantage of it, looting, doing these riots and all the other stuff. Like, it goes against the whole purpose of it. So I think it's looking at, you know what, I can only control what I can control myself, but where can I stand up and be a leader for what I believe in and what I stand for and everything else, to acknowledge, yeah, look, there's still unconscious racism sometimes going on because of the tradition, because of the habits and everything else that we've been doing. Let's acknowledge it and let's move forward, you know, because all lives matter, regardless of what color you are, regardless of what you believe in, and everything else. But I think both have just been really good timely reminders. It's just, obviously there's a small piece of the population in that who then go, fuck yeah, let's go fucking break and loot and everything else, right? Which ruin, you know, the message itself. But I think there's really good things that come out of everything. It's just, you've got to find the gold.
Yeah, I think personally, from my point of view, is there's a lot of people who have looked at the whole bad situation from this. I can't speak for what social media has been like in Australia. You know, yeah, we're both Aussies, but you know, I live in the UK, and I can speak for over here. I find it quite disturbing at times that people will play on it instead of actually going, yeah, let's look at the good thing of what we could get out of this whole episode. Coronavirus, black people, the whole racist thing. At the end of the day, we can't control what's going on in another country, but we can control what's going on in our own.
100%.
You know, at the end of the day, I feel sorry. You know, I feel very, very passionate about the Indigenous people of Australia. At the end of the day, us white people went to their country. It was theirs long time before we were even on this planet. You know what I mean? And like, I've seen how some of them lived up there. You know, one of my close family friends was one of the first white guys to work in Arnhem Land for the mining companies up there. So, you know, that sort of thing deep down in me means a lot to me. But without going off on a tangent, how people have twisted this whole thing around to be such a negative thing by using social media. Social media was supposed to be for people who can, you know, contact each other, not contact each other, spread shit and say this, do that, you know, show pictures of looting, showing videos of looting. You know, like poor old police horse got a brick in its face the other day. And you think, wait a second, that's acceptable, is it? No, it's not. It's, it's animal cruelty. That's a whole different subject. But my point of it is I think social media, especially the companies of social media, should start to crack down on some of this negativity which is going around. And I think it's been brewing for some time. And someone like you, who, we've all had like going back to, trolling and stuff like that. We've all been trolled at some stage. That's a fact. So you can either laugh about it like you have, or you can fight back like you have. But you fought back in a quite a sarcastic way of like, well, I'm going to defend what I believe in. I've got a right to, so on and so on. I'd be exactly the same. I did exactly the same. At the end of the day, if I was in the wrong, I'd back down. But I think this personal trolling and this like whole racism, negativity, spreading the media, yes, media have got a lot to answer for as well, but it gets twisted a lot in social media. So I think they have a lot to answer for, and that's my opinion. So I think, at the end of the day, we should use it as a tool for making our business, our lives a lot more better in a better way, rather than using it as a negativity.
100%.
So what are your plans for you, your business, going forward from this point? Obviously, with Australia coming out of Corona a lot like sooner than the UK, worldwide, are you obviously branching worldwide with your work? Are you, just staying in Australia, or what is it?
All right. So before I answer that question, I just wanted to comment and compliment you on your shoe collection behind you. It looks fucking incredible. Just got a few shoes back there.
A lot more up the top there. There's 13 pairs. Well, there's 12.
Oh wow.
Yeezys all the way up there, and they go all the way down to the floor.
Boom.
So,
brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. To answer your question, I guess it's really funny. I actually haven't stopped whatsoever for the coronavirus. So here in Australia, we did have our obviously social distancing, everything else. So the way that our business works is that we actually go out and film for someone. We did what we needed to we sprayed the mics and everything else that people were wearing. But other than that, we were able to keep a social, like a good distance. We were able to remove all human contact. We were able to still go out and film. Interstate travel was restricted for certain states, but we were still able to film for everyone around us. So I'm based in just above Sydney, just on the coast, in Central Coast for anyone who lives or knows Australia very well.
All these guys, this will be going obviously into my group on Facebook. So I still have a mass following back home in Oz.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I'm based on the Central Coast, but we still had people film in Perth, in Brisbane, someone in Adelaide. I was still able to travel from New South Wales to Victoria because there was no restrictions on border travel for those two states.
They decided to close their borders up north, yeah?
Yeah, but everyone else's borders were closed. But we've actually grown during the coronavirus, which has been really cool. But yeah, look, I think to be honest with you, what's the plans now? The plan is at this stage we're just sticking to Australia, just because I don't feel like we've really made the most of the Australian market just yet. There's a lot more that we need to do. However, it's definitely open for the future. It's definitely something that I want to look at. But yeah, at this stage, it's just Australia. But yeah, if someone is interested in the UK or whatever else, I'm more than happy to have a chat. There are a couple of things that we can do. But yeah, I guess
13 countries, mate. So you might just get some.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I'm not saying no to anything. I guess it's just making sure that it's right, it's important. We have a training process for not only our clients, but anyone who works on our behalf, including videographers, to make sure that we can do everything. But yeah, once the footage is done, it's then just looked after by myself and our team. And look, I've got more so exciting content that's coming up rather than exciting things that are happening in the business. Our business is evolving. Our team's growing. We've brought on 3 new team members full time. Plus we have also built some relationships with some videographers across Australia, which has been really useful for the coronavirus. But other than that, mate, it's just head down, bum up, and just making the most of what we've got.
Cool, man. No, like I say, Australia, difference between here and like UK and Australia is, I think, obviously we've been a lot hard hit than you guys. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think my personal opinion of after this is business go online a lot more, even more so. And I think there's going to be a lot more flexibility from businesses from working from home. I think that's going to take a massive impact on certain people and certain industries as well. You know, I don't know how bad it really was in Oz. Apart from I've spoken to a few friends up in Queensland, the good old Maroon State, the special people as it's known as. And basically, they said they locked their borders down and that was it. And then I got informed that apparently Queensland's not going to have international flights for at least a year. And I was like, all right, okay, can't go home for a while then at least. Have to pop into Sydney and that'd be it. But yeah, definitely think it's hit here a lot harder in a lot different ways to you guys. We've only literally been allowed out, outside for the last 4 weeks for proper you were allowed an hour a day of exercise. Otherwise, it was stay at home. That was it, apart from food shopping. Up until about 3 weeks ago, and then you're allowed a little bit more. You're allowed to travel to do your exercise and things like that. But yes, it's been a lot harder headed here. But definitely, if obviously, benefit you guys, and I appreciate all your time that you've done this for me today. Is if people have got questions for you, is there a best place to contact you?
Yep. So you can either find me on social media. So it's Alan Howle, ALAN. HOWLE. If you type in Alan Howle on any of the socials, you'll find me on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or TikTok as well, for that matter, and LinkedIn as well. So, but other than that, if you did get anything out of this, if you did enjoy it, maybe just hit me up on Instagram. Send me a message. Let me know what you got out of it. I'd love to hear any feedback or anything else.
Definitely. Basically, mate, what I'll do is afterwards is get you to just send me across those links, and what I can do is put them at the bottom so you can crack on. But I'd like to thank you very much for taking your time out. It's good to chat to you again, mate. And next time if you're in the UK, I'll treat you to a Sunday roast and a beer. And if I come back to Oz, you can buy me a burger and a beer again, mate.
Yeah, that's the least I could do if you pay a couple of grand to come back here. But yeah, 100%, mate. That sounds awesome. But yeah.
With it. And mate, if you want to in the future do some more, I'm more than happy to have you back on here. We can pick some different topics. If that's interesting for you, if you want to start branching out, let me know, and we'll start putting some stuff over towards the UK and America for you. But thanks very much. Guys, girls, Alan, so hit the subscribe button on the old SoundCloud and iTunes, and it'll soon be up on YouTube as well. Thanks very much, guys.